There's a lot of different car insurance companies to look at, and in general across the US, we're going to go over the most popular car insurance companies and explain just a little bit of why they're popular and whether they're a good fit for you. The biggest thing you have to keep in mind is they're not always a fit for everybody. Insurance companies are looking for what we call a profile, and in that profile there's different risk settings. Sometimes it's just the area. If you're in an area that they've had a lot of claims, the price is going to be higher. So you may think that they hate you and you're the end of the world, but that just means that they have too many claims in that area. It's not necessarily you. The other part is, what's your insurance score? What type of car do you have? Is it a Kia that's being stolen all over the US right now? There's all of these pieces that make up the price factor. And unfortunately, some pieces, no matter what company you go with, won't be a good fit. Let's also discuss the rate increases, because some of these companies, when this article was made, had a lower price. And so there's a little bit to look at and see if these are fits for you. Let's start off with the number one most popular, which is in no surprise to anyone that knows insurance. It's State Farm. They were the biggest market share, which was about 16% of all of the US. That's a lot of people. And the reason they're good is they focus on one of the biggest key pieces that we focus on ourselves. What do you think? What do you mean, what do I think? What you feel matters to them. And that is what they build their whole branding off of. That's why when you find a State Farm agency, they're taught and trained to sell the brand value. They have spent a long time building up that brand of, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. And that doesn't always ring true, because they are actually in the news as much for denying claims. There's the roof video where they clearly the roof was damaged, but there's all those things. Because they're the largest, they're going to have a big negative to that as well. They're the most popular, one of the most popular insurance agencies, and they're not always that expensive. So because their rates are going way up right now, and we're seeing anywhere 30 to 40% increase on some states with State Farm. Well, that being said, that doesn't mean that they're always expensive in some states. The second, at least in this article, this was from a company called Kiplinger. I've never heard of them, to be honest with you, but I kind of half agree with a lot of the data that they've given. So a lot of it's pulled from the J.D. Power and some of the consumer reporting systems. So that's kind of a nice little piece. I don't completely disagree with this one. Progressive is second, and actually I would reverse those, because Progressive has passed State Farm as the largest independent insurance agency. So Progressive is, I've got a few videos on this channel that you can check out, and I probably should do a Progressive versus State Farm one because they're the top two now, is they've been kind of a medium fit for everybody. They have a wide range of products, they have a wide range of risk acceptance, so you're not likely going to get denied from them versus having the price just go crazy wild. They usually tend to have a little bit more leniency on tickets and pieces like that. If you're in a higher risk zone, that's where they shine. The reason they're passing State Farm is mainly because of their commercial side. So if you have any type of commercial business, we've got a ton of that in our agency. Here in Michigan, we get a lot of business in different states like Tennessee and Ohio and Virginia. Those were licensed there, so we get a lot of commercial trucking and things like that. That being said, the piece that I like most about Progressive, that actually is a good piece, is they have a future plan. They're always ahead of what the trends are. At least I've seen their roadmap always be one step, thinking of what the customer is thinking or where they're at, what they're trying to be. It's a little bit scary as an agency owner, because that means I might not be in their mix. Who knows? We'll see what happens in the future. The next one up is Geico Insurance, and Geico is a good overall, similar to Progressive. They're actually very aggressive on marketing, even though that's died down a lot in the last 2 years. Because of that, I think they're going to start to fall down a little bit as their rates start to increase. Because when people start shopping around, they're going to realize that if I've had insurance for 2 or 3 years, even though it's with Geico and I may like them, then I can go over to a Safeco, or I can go to a State Farm or a Farmers or someone else that wants that longevity of a customer. So you may get a better deal at a different company based on just the fact that you've had the insurance with the cheaper carrier for a certain amount of time. By the way, if you are interested in getting a quote, we actually have several agents that we work with that are licensed in most of these states and actually have a lot of these carriers. If you want to check them out without getting bombarded with a ton of voicemails and calls and texts and all that stuff, we'll connect you with one of them, or if not, it'll be our agency that can help you out if you're shopping for car insurance. I'll put the link in the description below. Otherwise, Allstate is the fourth on this list, and honestly, I would say in about a year from now to 2 years, they're going to probably fall to the bottom. I like Allstate agents. They have the similar branding as State Farm, except they're more branded towards the old school version of be afraid that something could happen, right? They got the mayhem guy. If you're not covered correctly, this might happen to you. And that's why a lot of people buy insurance. That's also why a lot of agents have a bad rap, because it is a fear of missing or a fear of losing, which some people have won because they bought the insurance because they were afraid and that situation happened and they were covered. So it's kind of a win-lose. I don't know what you call it. They're overall a decent company. So as far as the agency goes, they're individual. They're like State Farm and Farmers. They only sell sort of as exclusive staple branded locations, right? You can call them up, but they're going to refer you out to somebody that's local. The reason I say that they're falling down a lot is they have announced and are currently doing a huge rate increase. They are geared towards profit, and they are not shy to say that they will have a 40, 50+% increase, and they've already done it in several states, that the rate has doubled on people. And if they're not making money, they're going to either lose the customer or make it profitable. The other piece that their management has mentioned is that they're going to remove coverages from their policies. This is why I think they're going to start slowly going down a peg, is because they're kind of tricking you in a way. It's not really tricking. Basically, they're taking off extra coverages to make their policies cheaper. So that base coverage that you get quoted, you actually have more coverage with most companies than you will with them. If you're unaware, then you're going to get a better deal with them, but you're probably giving something up. They haven't said what it is or when it is, so we can't really say exactly to that piece, but that's what it was announced. So they are going to remove some of the bases. They're taking off some of the pieces that would normally be covered on a policy. It's just not mixed into the group. You'll have to add it on yourself. That's, once again, where that agent comes into play. So agencies like ours can quote Allstate in pretty much every area that they're in. The fifth, which is, if you're looking at the data as far as a customer standpoint, has been one of the top ones. It's USAA. The reason that they're usually not talked about is because you can't just join them. It's an insurance agency, but you have to be a member of the U.S. military or government in order to be eligible to get insurance through them. That being said, they also are starting to slowly get some bad remarks because they are overstressed. They've had too many losses, like most of these companies. They've had too many issues to where they're losing some of their service end. And that's where they were really known for, is taking really good care of their clients, doing all of that. But that piece would probably put them in this 5 spot. Honestly, I think that's probably a good fit. Number 6 is Liberty Mutual. And I honestly hear them a whole lot about in the news. They're kind of one of those good companies that in general has been decent. They're right up there with Farmers. They're right up there with State Farm. They're a big company. They're leaning more towards the commercial end because their home and auto has gotten to be less competitive, I guess you could say. But that's kind of a fix that they've sort of created. You may have heard of a company called Safeco. So Liberty Mutual owns Safeco. And what that Safeco brand is your independent brand. More often than not, at least in the states that we quote in, Safeco tends to be less expensive than the Liberty brand. But they're all in one house. So you get that same quality of the Liberty Mutual brand, but called Safeco. Let me know in the comments below what your guys' thoughts are. Some people love them, some people hate them. It's kind of one of those 50-50. You either love them or you don't. And I've had good experience with the Safeco brand. I've also seen a lot of good experience, and I've got a lot of friends and family that have a really good experience with the Liberty Mutual brand. The piece that I like most about them, there's actually 2 things. Is one, their telematics is awesome. If you're going to save money and you're willing to give up some of your data for 90 days, they'll track your driving, all of that stuff. That way they built it is ingenious. It doesn't affect you or hurt you on the negative end if you're not a good driver. So there's only a benefit to do it versus a lot of those other ones where if you are showing that you're not a good driver, they're going to charge you more. So there's other pieces, and I've made a video on that part. Probably look up my Safeco video if you want to watch that, or I'll link that at the end of this. The second piece that I like about them is they're very inclusive internally. And if you see any reviews that we do on videos, you'll notice that that's one of the pieces that you're not likely going to look at when you're shopping. When you see all these reviews, who's going to go to Glassdoor, that's glassdoor.com, and check out the reviews of actual employees? Employees' happiness. Do they follow the brand? Do they believe in where the company's going? I feel as though Liberty Mutual has that branding. I also honestly feel that a lot of the State Farm ones too, I don't want to just say Liberty's the best. I don't even sell them, so I'm not trying to pitch them. They're just overall a really good company in my opinion. State Farm also has that good branding where they have a lot of inclusion, but they're starting to see some of those stresses. USAA had that even more than everybody, but that has dropped drastically. Number 7 is Farmers Insurance, and Farmers Insurance is one of those companies. I worked for them for 7 years. I actually enjoyed working for them. There was nothing wrong with them. It was a little bit different of a model. I did what I could while I was there. In general, I've got friends that sell Farmers, and they're happy with it. Farmers is not a bad company. Asterisk signs, some of their sub companies are a little bit less than preferred. They've got some sub brands, kind of like Liberty owns Safeco. Farmers owns a company called Bristol West. Bristol West is kind of that more higher risk type client where they don't fit the Farmers brand. Now you've got that other option. Their claims have been touted a little bit less than normal, so it depends on what brand you're actually looking at. The 8th spot is Nationwide, and I would probably bump them up 2 spots. I think Nationwide should be in the top, maybe top 5 or top 6. They're crushing it right now, and it's probably not on purpose because a lot of the prices are good, but in general, the company's been pretty decent. They're lacking a little bit, in my opinion, some of the ability to keep up with the busyness because when you're really competitive, which they're trying to fix, then they're trying to fix their rates so that it takes time, right? So all these companies have to file these rates in advance, and I got a feeling Nationwide's a little bit behind the rate ball in rate increases. So they haven't announced it, but I've got a feeling they're going to make some changes. They're going to have either a rate increase or it's going to be harder to get with them because they are almost too competitive in some areas. They've just been crushing price-wise, but in general, they're a good company. I've had very few complaints. They also have a really good telematics program, but they also have a product that most companies don't have, and it's called Smart Miles. Once again, if you're willing to give up your data and have them track you, they're going to track the miles you drive, not the cost of the insurance. So there's a base price, and then you pay per mile if you go over a certain mileage. Number 9 is American Family, and they've just been out of the news. I haven't seen them pop up in a while. They're a decent company. They usually partner with companies. I think they partnered with Costco a while back, and they might still be. And they've been decent. They're just kind of one of those, I don't want to say bland, but bland is good in our industry. So there's no like special quirks or special things that they've come out with, any unique pieces, and they're just a company that has done well. They're not overly staffed. They're not understaffed. They're, at least from what I've seen so far, I've seen very few complaints compared to those larger companies where all of a sudden they're understaffed because of a lot of the work from home pieces and not having enough agents available and things like that, to where these guys have been pretty comfortable. They're just kind of riding that tail, and I'm sure their rates will change as well if they haven't already, but they've been a decent company. They probably, I think, might be in that 9 to 8 spot, maybe even up a spot or 2, just because they've not really caused waves. Number 10, I hear a lot of people don't like them. I have had really good success with them, at least in Michigan, and it's Travelers Insurance. They're really competitive on homes, and they're a little bit picky. They actually have a really cool tool that will map out a satellite view of your house, so then they can quickly see, are there trees overhanging? Should this be an insurance risk that we need? And so you can kind of know up front whether you're going to just write a customer and turn around and have them cancel. They're picky, just like a lot of other companies. They're going to have an inspector go out to a home, all of that stuff. But as far as car insurance goes, in some states, they're very competitive. They're actually very well known. So that's one of those 50-50s. Half the people are going to love them, half the people are going to hate them. Overall, they've got a lot of really good customer satisfaction in the last 12 months. So they've kind of almost moved up a spot as far as their popularity. Those are the top 10 according to this article. I actually think that I wouldn't make a lot of changes changes to those. You've heard the pieces that I would change. If you're new to car insurance, your next step is to find out what coverages you should carry. Those are great companies to talk to, but unless you know what coverages you're looking for, it's not going to do you any good if you get the wrong agent. A lot of those reps or agents may be new because, like that customer satisfaction, they're trying to fill those empty seats. And if they're in the learning phase, you may want to learn a little bit more about your own policy. If you are interested in learning more about the car insurance, there's my Car Insurance 101. It'll go more in depth. If you're just looking for the cheaper price and you just want the better deal, I actually just recently made a cheapest car insurance where you can go over this year's car insurances, kind of get some ideas of what popularity, but what prices are most popular. I'm Mark with Think Insurance. I'll see you in the next one.